The television had been in my grandmother's basement longer than I'd been alive. Heck, maybe even twice as long. It was one of those old, square box sets with the rounded screen and fake wood paneling on the sides. Heavy enough that 2 grown men had trouble moving it. It sat on a metal cart in the corner, under a crocheted blanket my grandmother used to throw over it when she didn't want it collecting dust. Nobody watched it anymore. Nobody had watched it in years. It had rabbit ears on top, one of them bent slightly to the left, and a dial you had to turn by hand. No remote, no cable box, no HDMI port. Nothing modern, just the TV, the antenna, and whatever signals it could still pull out of the air. Most of the year it only showed static. But every winter something came through. At least that's what my grandmother used to say. When I was a kid, I thought she was joking. She had a way of saying strange things like they were completely normal, like telling you to take your boots off before coming inside or reminding you not to whistle after dark. Every December, usually around Christmas, she would go down to the basement after dinner and turn on that old television. She never invited anyone to watch with her. She would just say she was checking the signal. I asked her once what signal. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "The one that isn't meant for us." I was maybe 10 years old. I thought it was funny. I don't anymore. My grandmother died 3 years ago, right before Thanksgiving. My parents inherited the house, but neither of them wanted to live there. Too old, too drafty, too much upkeep. So for a while, it just sat there, half furnished and mostly empty, waiting for someone to decide what to do with it. I started spending time there that December. Not for sentimental reasons, not really. I was between apartments, work had been slow, and the house was quiet. It gave me somewhere to be that didn't feel like I was being watched by my own problems. The first night I saw the channel, I'd gone down to the basement looking for Christmas decorations. My mother wanted the old glass ornaments. She said they were in a blue storage bin near the washer, which was not helpful because there were about 15 blue storage bins near the washer. I was irritated, cold, and covered in dust. Then I saw the television. The blanket was still over it. I don't know why I pulled it off. Maybe because I hadn't seen it uncovered since I was a kid. Maybe because the basement already had that old December feeling, dry and cold and still. And some part of me remembered my grandmother sitting down there with her tea, turning the dial slowly like she was tuning into something important. I plugged it in. The screen came on with a low electric hum. Static filled the glass. At first I smiled. It was exactly the sound I remembered. That soft, endless hiss like wind through something mechanical. I turned the dial. Static, static, static. Then, between 2 dead channels, the picture changed. Not cleared. Not exactly. Changed. The static became darker in the center, like something was standing behind it. A shape. Human, maybe. Tall and thin, made out of gray and white noise. I leaned closer. The shape lifted one arm. I froze. It moved slowly. Not like a person waving hello. More like someone underwater, or someone learning the motion. I raised my hand without thinking. The shape waved back. I unplugged the television so fast the plug sparked against the outlet. Then I stood there in the dark basement, listening to my own breathing. I told myself it had been interference, a burned-in image, some weird optical thing caused by staring too long at static. I told myself a lot of things, but I did not plug the TV back in that night. The next morning I searched online. I don't remember exactly what I typed first. Something like a old TV static figure or analog signal ghost image. Then rabbit ear antenna channel appears only in winter, which obviously gave me nothing useful. I tried looking up local stations, defunct stations, pirate broadcasts, weather bands, emergency test signals. Nothing matched. There was no station between those dial positions. No record of anything broadcasting on that frequency. No archived local channel with that pattern. No weird public access thing. No old religious broadcast that used to bleed through into rural neighborhoods. Nothing. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. I went back down the next night. I told myself I was testing it. That's the word people use when they are about to do something stupid and want it to sound rational. The television was still unplugged. I plugged it in. The static came back. I turned the dial slowly, exactly the way I remembered turning it the night before. There it was again. The darker patch in the center, the shape, it was clearer this time. Still made of static. Still broken around the edges, but more defined. A head. Shoulders. One arm hanging down. I didn't wave. Neither did it. For a while, nothing happened. Then the static shifted, and for half a second, I saw something behind the figure. Not a room, not exactly, a space, lights maybe, shapes arranged in rows, something that almost looked like a desk. Then the signal collapsed back into noise. I watched for another 20 minutes. Nothing else happened. That was the first winter. I didn't tell anyone. By January, the signal was gone. I tried to find it again. Same dial position, same time of night, same basement. Nothing. Just static. Eventually, I convinced myself the whole thing had been a grief thing. My grandmother had died. I was alone in her house, surrounded by her old furniture and old habits. I had wanted something strange to happen because strange was easier than sad. That explanation worked for almost a year. Then winter came back. The 2nd December, I wasn't living in the house anymore, but I still checked on it once a week. Pipes, mail, basic maintenance. My parents kept talking about selling it, then not selling it, then maybe renting it out. Nobody made a decision. The house stayed empty. A week before Christmas, I went over to shovel the front walk after a storm. I wasn't thinking about the television. Not until I walked past the basement door and heard voices. I stopped in the hallway. At first, I thought someone was inside the house. Then I realized the sound was coming from below me. Not loud, not clear. Just the low murmur of broadcast voices. The kind you hear from another room when the TV is on and you can't make out the words. I went downstairs. The television was on. I know what you're going to ask. No, I had not left it plugged in. No, the house hadn't lost power in some way that would reset it. No, nobody else had been there. I checked the doors. I checked the windows. I checked the footprints in the snow outside. Nothing. The TV was on. The screen was not static this time. It showed a newsroom, at least something close to one. The image rolled and bent at the edges, black and white mostly, with bands of static passing through every few seconds. But I could see a desk, a backdrop, a man sitting behind it in a dark suit, a news anchor. He was looking down at papers in front of him. His mouth moved, but the sound kept cutting in and out. I took one step closer. The audio sharpened just enough for me to hear a few words. Conditions remain unstable. Static. Residents are advised. Static. Do not attempt. Then the picture jumped. The anchor looked up. Straight into the camera. Straight at me. I stepped back so hard I hit the washing machine behind me. The anchor's expression changed. Not much. Just enough. His eyes widened slightly, like he had seen something he had been waiting a very long time to see. Then he said my name. Not clearly. The sound broke around it. But I heard it. I heard my name come out of that old television in my dead grandmother's basement. I turned it off. This time I didn't just unplug it. I carried it to the far side of the basement and turned it around to face the wall. That night I barely slept. The next morning I searched again. The channel had no name, or if it did, I couldn't catch it. There was a logo in the lower corner, but it was too distorted to read. Something circular. Maybe letters, maybe a number. I searched for phrases I had heard. Conditions remain unstable. Residents are advised. Do not attempt. Nothing turned up that made any sense. I searched local emergency broadcasts, government alerts, archived regional news, every phrase, every possible combination. Nothing. I even searched my own name with those phrases, which made me feel ridiculous. Still nothing. The next week I went back. I told myself I was going to record it. If it happened again, I would have proof. That was all. Proof. I set my phone on top of the dryer, pointed at the television, and plugged the TV back in. Static. Then the newsroom. The anchor was already looking into the camera, waiting. The picture was clearer than before. He was maybe in his late 40s with dark hair combed stiffly to one side and the exhausted look of a man who had not slept properly in weeks. His suit was wrong somehow. Not old-fashioned exactly, just not quite current. The tie too narrow. The collar too stiff. I didn't recognize what era it was from, but it didn't seem modern either. He leaned toward the camera. The audio came in waves. If this signal is reaching, static. Repeat. If this signal is reaching. He paused. Then he said my name again. This time I heard it clearly. My whole body went cold. The anchor looked down as if reading from something, then back up. You need to listen. The screen tore sideways. For a second, the newsroom vanished, and I saw a street. Not a street I recognized at first. Snow on the ground. Cars stopped at odd angles. Storefront windows dark. Power lines sagging. Then the image stabilized just enough for me to see the street sign. It was Main Street. Our Main Street. But wrong. The pharmacy sign was different. The church on the corner had a taller steeple. The traffic light hung from a wire instead of the metal arm we had. Same town, not the same town. Then the anchor was back. You have more time than we did, he said. The static thickened. His face broke apart and reassembled. Not much. The TV went black. My phone had recorded 11 minutes. When I played the video back, it showed static. Only static. No anchor, no street, no voice. Just 11 minutes of gray noise and my breathing behind the camera. That was the second winter. After that, I stayed away from the house until March. By then, the signal was gone again, and because people can convince themselves of almost anything if enough time passes, I convinced myself I had misunderstood. Maybe I had fallen asleep. Maybe the TV had picked up some strange broadcast, and my brain had filled in the rest. Maybe grief takes longer than people admit. Maybe old houses do things to your head. I did not believe any of that completely, but I believed it enough to keep functioning. The third winter started early. There was snow before Thanksgiving, the kind that comes too soon and makes everyone complain because they are not ready to be winter people yet. My mother called and asked if I could check the house. She was worried about the pipes. They really wanted to get it prepped and ready to sell it for real this time, she said, so they couldn't risk the pipes bursting now. I almost said no. I should have said no. But some part of me had been waiting too. That's the part I don't like admitting. I went over after work, around 9:30. The house was colder than it should have been. Furnace was running, but the rooms still held that empty house chill. The kind that sits inside furniture. I checked the kitchen, bathroom, upstairs, bedrooms, everything fine. Then I opened the basement door. The television was already on. The blue-white flicker pulsed against the basement wall. I stood at the top of the stairs for a long time. The sound coming from below was not static. It was an emergency tone. Low, repeating. Not the modern alert tone exactly, but close enough that my body reacted before my mind did. That deep animal alarm that says, pay attention, went down. The television was still facing the wall. The screen flickered against cinder block. I walked around it slowly. The newsroom was gone. This time, the broadcast showed a room, a basement. For a second, I thought it was my grandmother's basement. Washer, dryer, concrete floor, exposed pipes. Then I noticed the layout was wrong. The washer was on the opposite side. The shelves were metal instead of wood. The staircase railing was painted black. But it was close. Close enough that my stomach dropped. The camera angle was low, like the broadcast was coming from something sitting on the floor. The image shook slightly. A voice spoke off screen. Not the anchor, someone else. A woman, maybe. We have him. Static rolled through the image. We have the right one this time. Then the anchor appeared, stepping into frame. Not at a desk now. In the basement, that other basement. He looked worse than before, thinner, pale. His tie loosened. One side of his collar folded under. Still in his same sort of vintage, but not vintage suit. He crouched in front of the camera. I know this is difficult to understand, he said. His voice was clearer than it had ever been. We have tried for 3 seasons. 3 seasons. 3 winters. He looked over his shoulder at someone I couldn't see, then back at me. The overlap is narrow. It only holds in cold conditions. We don't know why. We don't have time to explain it properly. I didn't move. I don't think I breathed. He said my name, then my grandmother's name, then the address of the house. Every number, every word. We need you to listen carefully. The screen flickered. For a second, the basement behind him changed. The walls were darker, wet-looking. Something black ran in lines down the concrete. Then the picture snapped back. The anchor swallowed. You still have time? We didn't. The words landed in the basement like something physical. I wanted to turn the TV off. I wanted to run upstairs, lock the door, and never come back. But I stayed. Because he was looking directly at me now. Not like a man on television. Like someone looking through a window. We thought it started with the signal, he said. It didn't. The picture distorted. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then audio returned mid-sentence. Already in the house. I stepped back. The anchor leaned closer. Do not let it hear you. Behind him, somewhere in that other basement, something knocked. Once. Hard. The anchor froze. So did I. For 5 seconds, nobody moved. Then he whispered, "It knows when you repeat the words." The screen flared white. When the image came back, he was standing now. Someone off-screen was shouting. The camera tipped slightly. I could see more of the room behind him. There were 3 people there. maybe 4, standing near the stairs, not facing the camera, facing the dark space under the steps. One of them held what looked like a microphone wrapped in foil and wires. Another held papers. All of them were terrified. The anchor turned back to me. We need you to find where it enters. Static. Not the television. That's only where it speaks. Static. The first breach is in the sound cut. The image warped. I hit the side of the TV without thinking, like that would help. The anchor's face stretched and broke into horizontal lines. He slammed one hand against the desk or whatever surface was in front of him. The first breach is in the... Nothing. Static swallowed the word. Again. The first breach is in the... A sound came from the other side of the basement. My basement, not the TV. A small sound. Wood shifting. I turned around. The old storage shelves lined the far wall, boxes stacked underneath, Christmas bins, paint cans, my grandfather's tools. Nothing moved. Then the TV audio returned in a burst. "Don't look for the voice," the anchor said. I turned back. He looked panicked now. "Do not answer it." From upstairs, someone called my name. Not loudly, not urgently. Just my name, spoken from the first floor. My mother's voice, except my mother was at home, 40 minutes away. The anchor shook his head. Slowly. "No," he said. The voice upstairs called again. My name. This time a little closer to the basement door. I stood completely still. The anchor whispered. We answered. The basement lights flickered. Once. Twice. The TV picture began to tear apart. The anchor looked off camera. "They're losing the room." Someone screamed on his side of the screen. Not long, cut short. The camera jolted. For one clean second, I saw the thing behind him. I don't know how to describe it, because it was not shaped like anything that should be inside a house. It was tall, but not in a human way. Narrow in places where bodies are not narrow. Too many angles. Its head almost touched the basement ceiling, and its face was turned away, toward the people near the stairs. The anchor didn't look back. He kept looking at me. "Find the first breach," he said. My mother's voice came from the top of the stairs. "Are you coming up?" The anchor's eyes went wide. "Do not go upstairs." The TV went black. The basement went silent. Then the house phone rang. I didn't even know it still worked. The sound came from the kitchen above me. One ring, then another, then another. I stayed in the basement until it stopped. I slept in my car that night. Not in the driveway. 3 blocks away in the parking lot of a closed diner, with the doors locked and the engine running until I ran low on gas. In the morning, I called my mother. She answered on the second ring. I asked if she had called the house the night before. She said no. I asked if she had come over. She laughed, then stopped when she heard my voice. She asked what was wrong. I said nothing. I went back to the house at noon because daylight makes idiots brave. The television was off. The basement looked normal. No wet marks, no shifted boxes, no sign anyone had been there. I checked upstairs. Nothing. Then I checked the house phone. It was unplugged. Not from the wall, from the base. The cord was coiled beside it, like it had been that way for years. That should have been enough. If it wasn't, I started looking for the first breach. I didn't know what that meant, so I started with the basement. I moved boxes, pulled shelves away from the walls, checked around pipes and vents and the old coal chute that had been sealed before I was born. Nothing. I spent 3 days doing that. Every night I went back. Every night the TV came on. Sometimes I got only static, sometimes pieces. The anchor's face breaking apart. A woman crying somewhere. Off camera. A map of our town, but not quite our town, with red circles around places I recognized. The school, the library, my grandmother's street, the house. One night, the anchor managed only one sentence. Cold makes it easier. Another night, it learned through repetition. Another. Your grandmother heard it first. I stopped sleeping. I stopped answering calls after dark. I stopped saying certain words out loud, though I couldn't have told you which ones were dangerous and which ones only felt dangerous because I was losing my mind. Then, on the fourth night, I found the notebook. It was in the basement, taped behind the old television cart. A small spiral notebook, yellowed at the edges. My grandmother's handwriting. I knew it immediately. Most of the pages were grocery lists, church reminders, notes about furnace repairs. Then near the back, the writing changed. December 14th. Signal returned. Male voice clearer this year. Says same phrase. You have time. December 17th. Do not repeat what it says. December 19th. It mimics voices now. December 21st. Basement corner behind shelves, colder than rest of room. December 22nd. It is not trying to come through the television. The next page had been torn out. I stared at that last line for a long time. Then I moved the shelves in the far corner again. I'd already checked there, twice, but this time I checked the wall itself. Behind the shelves, low near the floor, was a small square of concrete that didn't match the rest. Different texture, slightly newer. Someone had patched it. The air around it was cold. Not basement cold. Outside cold. I put my hand against it and felt something vibrate faintly beneath my palm. Not sound. Pressure. Like someone humming on the other side of a wall. The television clicked on behind me. I didn't turn around. The anchor spoke through static. That's where it started. I kept my hand on the wall. The concrete felt colder by the second. What do I do? I asked. I didn't mean to say it out loud. The TV hissed. For a while, no answer came. Then the anchor said, "Don't open it." I almost laughed. It came out like a breath. Because of course that was the warning. Not open it. Not investigate. Not find the truth. Just don't open it. The patched square pulsed under my hand. From somewhere inside the wall, my grandmother's voice said very softly, "Honey?" I pulled my hand away. The TV burst into sound. Do not answer. My grandmother's voice came again. It's cold in here. The anchor was shouting now, but the signal was breaking. Do not answer it. Do not repeat it. Do not. The TV snapped off. The basement light above me went out. I stood in the dark with the wall in front of me. Something knocked from inside the concrete. Once, then twice, then 3 times. Like a person asking to be let in. I ran. I wish I could tell you I sealed the wall. That I burned the house down. That I called someone who understood what to do. I didn't. I ran upstairs, locked the basement door, and left the house. 2 days later, my parents finally agreed to sell. I did not argue. I did not tell them about the wall. I did not tell them about the broadcasts. I told myself the next owners would renovate. They would find it in daylight with contractors, with tools, with witnesses. Maybe that would be safer. Maybe. The house sold in early April. By then the signal had stopped again. Winter ended. Everything went quiet. Almost a year has passed. The new family moved in last summer. I've driven by twice. Once in July, once in October. The house looked normal, lights on, kids' bikes in the driveway. Someone planted mums on the porch. I told myself that meant nothing had happened. I wanted to believe that. Then last week, the first snow came. And yesterday I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a 1-page. A copy, I think, from a child's notebook. Wide-ruled paper. Pencil handwriting. Just 1 sentence. Written over and over from top to bottom. You still have time. You still have time. You still have time. At the bottom of the page, in handwriting that was not a child's, someone had added, "We didn't." I went back to the house tonight. I know I shouldn't have. I parked across the street and watched the windows. The basement light was on, blue-white, flickering. And in the front upstairs window I saw one of the new children standing perfectly still, looking down at me. Not waving, Not scared, just watching, like they had been waiting for me to come back. And from somewhere deep inside the house, faint enough that I almost convinced myself I imagined it, I heard the old television turn on.